Thank you, Phyllis, and good morning. My name is Dan, and I will be your service leader today. Welcome to Unity of Bloomington. At Unity, we offer practical spiritual teachings that empower abundant and meaningful living. We are a center for spiritual growth, and we provide inspiration, tools, and practices that support people on their path of spiritual growth. Please stand and join us in combining our voices in joyful song. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful day. This beautiful day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing day. This healing day. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. There's my wonderful friends. My wonderful friends. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful 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 day. Yay. I am complete, I am whole, expressing the divine as I travel down the road. I am complete, I am whole, I celebrate the journey of life. I am complete, I am whole, expressing the divine as I travel down the road. I am complete, I am whole, I celebrate the journey of life. Standing in the dark or dancing in the light, whether I'm confused or filled with insight, I am always whole, I am complete. Just like the mighty oak that's contained in a seed, I am complete, I am whole. Expressing the divine as I travel down the road. I am complete, I am whole, I celebrate the journey of life. I am complete, I am whole, expressing the divine as I travel down the road. I am complete, I am whole, I celebrate the journey of life. I celebrate the journey of life. I celebrate the journey of life. All right. Please remain standing and join me in affirming our statement of being. Together, there is only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, omnipotent. This power expresses life, love, wisdom, and abundance through me. In it, I live and move and have my being. Please be seated. One way we empower abundant and meaningful living is by practicing and living our 5 basic principles. I will state the principle, and I invite you to respond with the affirmation. God is all good and active in everything, everywhere. God is. I am naturally good because God's divinity is in me and everyone. I am. I create my experiences by what I think, feel, do, and believe. I create. Through affirmation, prayer, and meditation, I connect with God and bring out the good in my life. I pray. I do and give my best by living the truth I know. I make a difference. I live. I now invite Reverend Lynn up for a moment with our children.
Today are all my children. Lynn, microphone. Oh, microphone. To your right. I'm going to go. You think I've never been here before? How's that? Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to embarrass Patty. Would you stand up? Because I want people to see your leaves. Patty came dressed for my children's moment. And I have one leaf here. I learned something about the leaves on the trees, and I would have thought by this advanced age I would have known all of this already, but there's still information out there that has probably just not penetrated. Who knows how long I heard it ago. That, you know, what happens this time of year is that the leaves that started up on the trees end up on the ground. And I have long thought, as many others do, that the leaves kind of leap to their next stage when the time is right. And I wasn't sure how they knew if the time was right, but this month we're talking about release. So I started thinking about there's a lot of release going on around here. I was here late yesterday as it got dark, and our yard people were still scooping up leaves long after it was dark last night, but they had their high-powered beams, and I think they had them out of the grass by then. They were just loading them on tarps and putting them in the truck. So I thought, oh, lots of release going on, and that means there's a lot of cleanup to do. But what's interesting to me is that the leaves don't release the tree. It works the other way around. Evidently, as the temperatures drop and the leaves are no longer doing their photosynthesis thing, then the tree quits feeding them. And eventually, and of course what I imagine is that the tree pushes them off, which probably is not the way it works. It's probably that the tree withdraws its support and the leaf dries up and blows away. But just the notion that it's the tree that releases the leaves, seems like there's a spiritual truth in that for us, because the things that no longer serve us will not necessarily drop away of their own volition or through misuse or disuse. I guess that's really the term. That we may be like a neurotic tree, I'll call it, and want to hang on to all of our leaves, all of those things that have served us, because the leaves really help nourish the tree, create energy, and they're valuable, although this time of year they're a lot of work. But it's up to us, like the tree, to recognize when something has run its course, outlived its usefulness. when it is no longer nourishing us, and it's time to let it go. So I will just invite you to ponder that as the leaves continue to do their thing through this fall season, and invite you to consider how effortless it can be to just release that which no longer serves you. Thank you.
Can you change that? I like to stand in front I like to tell the wind move. I like to be a friend. I like to hear the rainbow singing the color blue. I like the fact that I like someone like you. Thank you, Reverend Lynn. November 2021. This year's Unity annual theme is how we stay centered no matter what. And each month we explore the role that one of the 12 powers plays in staying centered and experiencing inner peace. And no matter what is occurring around us. And this month we're exploring the power of release. And in the 12 powers of man, Charles Fillmore says, there must be renunciation or letting go of old thoughts before the new can find place in the consciousness. In the spirit of gratitude, we release that which no longer serves our highest expression and open our hearts and minds to receive and experience the blessings in and around us. So please join me in saying this month's affirmation together. Whatever I release will bless me. So we do have a couple of announcements. First of all, join us Sunday, November 28th, and that's the Sunday after Thanksgiving, so that we can deck the halls and begin the holiday Christmas season. So please plan on staying with us after the service, entering at 11:30, and we will get going and break out the boxes and all the decorations and put up the tree and start decking the halls, so to speak. So we'd love for you to stay and help every one of us. And it's kind of fun just to decorate the Christmas. It's always a unique decoration every year. So anyway, you are invited to help us out. So we're going to start reading the daily word. And the word for today is grace. And the affirmation is, grace is my constant blessing. So here's what they say. I discover grace all around me when I open my eyes, my mind, and my heart to its presence. Grace reminds me that God's love is active everywhere and at every moment. Grace can be as quiet as a whisper. It's in the love I hear in the voice of someone dear, and in the warmth and tenderness of a comforting touch. Grace is in the heartfelt welcome I receive when invited into a friend's home. It's the bliss I feel when I know I truly belong. God is the heart of all grace as goodness and kindness in action, always mine to receive and give in kind. My growing awareness inspires me to share this activity of God generously by calling it into expression. And from Acts 20, verse 32, and now I commend you to God and to the message of his grace, a message that is able to build you up and to give you the inheritance among all who are sanctified. Grace is my constant blessing. So let's say that affirmation aloud again, together. Grace is my constant blessing. And now repeat it to yourself silently. Grace is my constant blessing. Today, musical inspiration will be provided by our Unity music team, and our speaker today is our spiritual ministry co-coordinator, Reverend Lynn Carlson.
Whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. And a new day is dawning in my soul. And a new day is dawning in my soul. Believe it or not, I ain't lying. And I'm not trying to cover. I've been broken open till I've freed up the struggle at last. I can see all the ways I've been gifted and the wisdom that has brought me to this place. Through the twists and the turns, I have finally come to learn to trust this amazing kind of grace. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. And a new day is dawning in my soul. And a new day is dawning in my soul. The high road is surprisingly easy. Forgiveness shows up without a fight. Through the ups and the downs, I see beauty all around, 'cause I'd rather be grateful than right. And I've got to play with what I'm given and find such unexpected harmonies. Weaving the light with the deep dark shadows till the music sets me free. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. And a new day is dawning in my soul. And a new day is dawning in my soul. I got no regrets. I got no regrets. I'm seriously blessed. I'm seriously blessed. With such peace of mind. I got peace of mind. All the time. All the time. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. I got no complaints whatsoever. And a new day is dawning in my soul. And a new day is dawning in my soul. I got no regrets. I'm seriously blessed. And a new day is dawning in my soul. Can I get an amen? Yeah. No complaints whatsoever. Yes. I think that song is the perfect anthem to combine grace and release. Charles Fillmore says in the 12 Powers, Do not imagine anything but good, because under the law of thought combined with substance, it will sooner or later come into expression unless you head it off, eliminate it by denial. So, if I imagine only good, what is there to complain about? Yeah, I think that's the path. Gratitude is the amazing grace that the writers of this song, J.D. Martin and Jan Garrett, cite as their antidote for negativity and complaints. I got no complaints. I'm seriously blessed. I've got no regrets. Yeah, complaints doesn't rhyme. I'm seriously blessed. Amen. We're going to look at a couple other practices that can help us with release. But first, I want to tell you a story that came to mind this week, actually a couple weeks ago. I once had a member of this community come to me in embarrassment because he was sure he had offended another gentleman at a group gathering. And he was too embarrassed to check it out or apologize, so he asked me to intercede on his behalf. So it's not a great example of going direct with our communication, but I kind of felt sorry for the guy, so I agreed to help him out. So I went to the possibly offended gentleman and asked. I shared the offender's concern, and I was so impressed by his response that I have remembered it to this day. And this happened when we were still at 14th and Dunn, so it's been over a decade. And I can't remember what I had for lunch yesterday. So there are things that do stick. And when I asked if he remembered the incident and had taken offense, his response was, "There's so much to ignore." And I'd never heard anybody say that before, but I thought, wow, that is the most gracious thing I think I've ever heard. I don't know if he was offended. He didn't say so. An example of one way to apply Charles Fillmore's only think about what's good. Just ignore it. And that stuck with me as I read the daily word for today about grace and in the context of what we're talking about this month, which is the power of release. I realize that these two practices are a natural pairing in my mind. The daily word said, "I discover grace all around me when I open my eyes, my mind and my heart to its presence." Grace can be as quiet as a whisper. It's in the voice of someone dear and in the warmth of tenderness of a comforting touch. Grace is the heartfelt welcome I receive when invited into a friend's home. It is the bliss I feel when I know I truly belong. God is the heart of grace as goodness and kindness in action, which I receive and give in kind. The daily word says that God is love, comfort, belonging, goodness, and kindness in action. And I am the recipient as well as the giver of grace, and so are you. What were once termed random acts of kindness could be considered as acts of grace. The revealing word, which gives us a little metaphysical spin on all sorts of words, says that the metaphysical meaning of grace is that it's goodwill, favor, a disposition to show mercy, and divine help in the unification of spirit, soul, and body in spiritual oneness. Grace covers a multitude of possibly offenses. It's how we smooth out each other's humanness on the days when our humanness threatens to overwhelm our higher self. The revealing word goes on to say that grace and truth came through Jesus Christ, quoting John 1:17, and that is real, saving, redeeming, transforming power came to all people through the work that Jesus did in establishing a new and higher consciousness on earth. We can enter into that consciousness by faith in Jesus and by means of the inner spirit of the law that he taught and practiced. So Jesus is our way shower, and he demonstrates grace in a way that we can understand and emulate. I love Googling 2 words and seeing what Google makes of it. Sometimes it'll ignore one and go with the other. Occasionally I find a little gem, and I got one yesterday. I put loving kindness and grace, because I thought, I think those 2 concepts are related, but maybe I'm the only person that ever thought that. When you Google something, you find out you've never had an original thought. I've never had an original thought. But I found a little blog post from Pastor Vivian, who is at the First United Church of Fort Collins, Colorado. I don't know her. It didn't look like she was even on the staff any longer, but at some point, and most blog posts are not dated, which I think is a weakness, but I guess it doesn't matter. It's an eternal truth. Pastor Vivian wrote, chesed, a word found in Hebrew scripture that's often translated as loving kindness, is perhaps best described as God's persistent, unconditional tenderness, kindness, and mercy toward all humanity. It cannot be earned or deserved. Chesed is the equivalent of the Christian concept of grace. I thought, at least Pastor Vivian agrees with me. Undeserved yet steadfastly offered, moving for our good, constantly at work in ways we do not understand, always assuming the best of us, and so always wooing us to be our better selves, constantly illuminating the ways we can become our better selves, and then providing the strength and inspiration we need to do exactly that. Now, let's line up grace and the power of release. Ginger has done a wonderful job the last 2 Sundays in talking about this power. And she did a thorough study of the importance of letting go, especially as it relates to making room for growth and for blessings. You gotta let go of what you got if you want something different, something more, maybe even something better. Release is cleansing, renunciation, repentance, elimination, purging, and letting go. As I mentioned in this week's newsletter, we mustn't confuse letting go with giving up or quitting. Letting go may involve stopping some behaviors or giving up on doing something my way. But it's not admitting defeat or throwing in the towel. The power of release is a choice that we make to let go of some thought or idea, either because it no longer serves us or because we realize it's taking up psychic space and we want to put something else in that space, something better and higher and healthier. I also find the power of release to be useful in eliminating things like grudges, old wounds, anger, and generally bad attitudes. It's even helpful in giving up any attachment we might have to complaining. These are thoughts and ideas as well, but we can come to see them as so tied up with the individual involved, the relationship we have with the object of our grudge or anger, that it feels like it's more about the person, and we lose sight of the fact that my anger with you is a thought in my head. You may not even know about it. So it's mine to own or release. So let's look at the how-tos of the power of release. We've already touched on gratitude as a key strategy in eliminating complaints. The song that Dan learned just this week for me, thank you, Dan. Thank you, Phyllis, although Phyllis was familiar with it, so it wasn't brand new to her, but Dan really got on board with it, thank you. And Penny made up her own harmony, so it was a creative effort across the board. The song says, through the ups and downs, I see beauty all around because I'd rather be grateful than right. And on the YouTube video I was listening to help learn this song, because I wasn't very familiar with it, the crowd cheers at that point. I'd rather be grateful than right. And that is sometimes why we hang on to our complaints or our grudges. Gosh darn it, he owes me an apology. I'm right. And he's oblivious. So it's our thought. We're hanging on to it. And I'd rather be grateful that I haven't seen him in a while. His insult has no power over me. Those are the ways we can shift that energy, or just say there's so much to ignore. It doesn't mean denying that there are difficulties or challenges, because sometimes the glass is half empty. It just is. Sometimes your favorite person can't make it to the party, won't be at the table on Thanksgiving Day. The power of release allows us to be aware of this, and at the same time, it inspires us to choose to look at the good. Look, I still have half a glass of this wonderful thirst-quenching liquid. And it's so wonderful that all of you came to my party. I can focus on what's still in the glass, or I can complain to you about the fact that it doesn't have more. But that's my choice, and I can release the negativity. Lots of times, sometimes if I'm just paying attention, I think sometimes our complaints are almost reflexive. It's like, oh, I heard somebody use the term unwelcome recently. I wanted a whole glass, I got a half a glass, that's unwelcome, so I have to squawk about it. We don't. We just don't have to. It's an act of grace to find something for which to be grateful in any circumstance. And in my sojourn with Thich Nhat Hanh, I learned that the Buddhists teach that there are always sufficient conditions to be grateful. And they even talk about gratitude for the non-toothache. I'm really grateful I don't have a toothache this morning, and I hope that you don't either. But we don't stop to think about that it's good that we don't have troubles. We're not supposed to have troubles, are we? No. Well, Sometimes the glass really is half empty. But there are lots of times when we can be grateful that the seas are calm, that we're able to overlook or let it go. Releasing negativity through gratitude can be a life-changing practice, and it transforms us from cranky complainers into positive appreciators. Well, I thought of a second strategy for using the power of release that I think is even more so closely associated with grace. It's an old truism that was codified in Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Four Agreements, and it's agreement number 1. Take nothing personally. This isn't easy, especially when you first begin using it, to let go of opportunities to take offense. I think this is the practice that the gentleman employed in the story I told as I began. His version of it was, there's so much to ignore. Occasionally, especially when I'm not feeling well, I can be so touchy that it feels like I'm just waiting for somebody to offend me or hurt my feelings or prove that I'm as worthless as I'm feeling at the moment, mostly because of the illness. This is exactly the opposite of what I'm talking about. Rather than waiting to be offended, we expect those things to pass us by giving them no power. The truth is that even when someone is deliberately being mean or offensive to you, it isn't about you. It's their negativity being outpictured as a put down, an insult, or a slight. And regardless of where they're coming from, when we're centered in our highest self, our Christ self, we have the grace to remember not to take anything personally and to ignore someone's provocative behavior. I have a keen memory when I think about ignoring that provocation. We'd gathered, I think it was for Thanksgiving, at my sister's house. We only met there once. The whole family was around the table, and somebody started talking politics, which is, we really don't do in my family, but it happened, and I lost my head for a moment and made some very negative pronouncement about my father's political affiliation. And as soon as I said it, I was sorry. I really didn't mean to start anything. It just kind of, plopped out of my mouth. So immediately I looked at my father, who was sitting at the other end of the table from me, and expecting thunder to roll. And what I got instead was one of his famous grins that he didn't say a word, but the smile said to me, "Did you say something?" I didn't hear anything. And I was so grateful, because it could have been the end of a peaceful family gathering if he had taken the bait that I so obliviously tossed out. And he didn't. Maybe he really didn't hear me, but it didn't matter, because I was the recipient of grace in that moment. And finally, there's a path to elimination that I think of as the grace of generosity. Maybe call it understanding or making excuses for one another or even for ourselves. This involves things like giving ourselves and others the benefit of the doubt. When we first notice a thought or idea that we're holding on to that no longer serves us, we may stop and wonder, why do I do that? Or why would I go there? When we're feeling bad about ourselves, it's easy to think, Well, I'm doing it because I'm mean or stupid or lazy or whatever words you use to beat yourself up with. But there's no grace in that. Unity teaches us to use denials and affirmations for this kind of negative self-talk. But I sometimes find that those are more effective if I can understand the why, the motivation, the how did I get here piece. And understanding what motivates the negativity helps. So I think, you're not lazy, you're tired. Or, I'm not selfish, but I have a deadline and I have to finish this, which looks a lot like selfishness sometimes. It's been referred to as my busy mode, which mostly means I'm not available. I'm focused on something else. We may find ourselves making these allowances for other people as well. I worked with a couple years ago who were really in the midst of splitting up, although they didn't know it yet. That was the end result. And they wanted to understand better what was going on. The woman was rereading her journals from when they had first gotten together as a way to gain some insight into how the relationship had changed, which I thought was brilliant. She came in one day and said, he did the same silly things back then that he does now. But in reading my journals, back then I was so in love with him that I made excuses for him. And I don't do that anymore. And I don't know if that's when it clicked for her that this relationship was over. But I remember thinking, okay, unless you use that as the inspiration to start looking for why that might have happened rather than that he's just a jerk, which is pretty much what she decided at that point, then this isn't going to work. And she didn't, and it didn't. But there was a lesson in that for me that grace is what prompts us to say, oh, he didn't mean it. He was just busy. He was tired. John Gottman calls it sentiment override, which is, I remember the good things rather than focusing on the bad stuff. And we can use that in our practice of release. Gratitude, not taking anything personally, and gracious generosity. 3 ways to wield your power of elimination. You don't have to continue to drag around those old thought habits, notions, attitudes, or beliefs that clutter your mind and your heart and keep you from a higher consciousness. Identify and let go of that which no longer is useful to you. I believe it's a kindness to ourselves and a gift to the world when we can do that. So now our music team is going to help us prepare for meditation. As we turn now to meditation, breathe and relax. You are surrounded and supported by the spirit of love and peace. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, let your body soften and relax further while your head floats up and your shoulders sink down. Realize that you can let go of all weariness, all doubt, all fear. Feel the lightness and freedom in your whole being, and hold this thought. I gladly let go of the old. My whole being expands with the newness of spiritual consciousness. Allow your attention to move to your heart and think these words. The forgiving love of God cleanses, purifies, and strengthens me. The forgiving love of God cleanses, purifies, and strengthens me. As you think about this, relax even more, remembering that you are held tenderly, safely, unconditionally. Now allow your attention to move to the center of release, located at the lower end of the spinal column. Breathe these words. The forgiving love of God cleanses, purifies, and strengthens me. Now let your attention ascend to the strength center in the small of your back and affirm, I gladly let go of weak, worn out thoughts in mind and in body. The joy of the Lord is my strength. I gladly let go of weak, worn-out thoughts in mind and in body. Now let your attention move again to the center of elimination and give thanks that the divine is active throughout your whole being, with all its cleansing, discriminating, purifying power, and that you are joyously working with it. Finally, imagine breathing in through your connection to Source at the top of your head. Inhale the light of the divine presence and allow it to permeate your being, filling all the places from which you have released that which is no longer needed. Breathe again deeply and imagine yourself filled with divine light in the silence.
sings a song. I am that love. I am the love of God. You are the love of God. You are the love of God. The love that makes the universe. The love that sustains us all. You are that love. You are the love of God. We are the love of God. We are the love of God. The love that makes the universe. The love that sustains us all. We are that love. We are that love of God. We are that love. We are the love of God. We are that love. We are the love of God. Thank you, Reverend Lynn. We now turn to the spiritual practice of generosity. We are grateful for the many ways that this service supports us in our spiritual growth, and we in turn are happy to support the center with our financial contributions and our voluntary service. We are also grateful for those of you who have already put into place automatic weekly, monthly, and quarterly giving. Thank you. Today, if you feel led, visit our website at unityofbloomington.org and click the giving link. And if you brought a tithe or love offering today with you this morning, we invite you to place it in the singing bowl at the back of the chapel on your way out after the service. And the singing bowl is also the location where you can leave your prayer requests. And you will find the. Join me now in speaking aloud our abundance affirmation. Together, I am an abundant being living in an abundant universe. God is the source of my supply. I am not dependent on people or situations for my good. God is the source of my supply. I always have something to give, and I consistently give it. I expect the best, I give my best, and I now attract the best in every experience. Oh, there's nothing to fear. I now let go. There's nothing to fear. I now let go. I now let go. There's nothing to fear. I realize there's only one power. 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 I realize I'm one with the one. I realize there's one with the one. I realize there's one with the one. I realize I'm one with the one. We bless our abundance with all that I receive. And I'd like to invite you now to stand and join with me in saying our closing prayer. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. All is well. In gratitude for our radiant health, please remain in place and join us in singing, "Let There Be Peace on Earth." Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be, with God as creator. Begin with me, let this be the moment now.